Let's talk about your portfolio. So, this is something that comes up all the time. I have a lot of conversations with people who tell me that the first thing they need to do to get their business off the ground is to build up their portfolio. And what I want to do today is talk to you specifically about why you don't really need to do that. And I'm going to give you three big reasons why you don't need to focus on your portfolio and why your portfolio is not probably going to win you many clients. And so I'm going to go through three reasons, and each of the three reasons I'm going to kind of support with even more reasons. So, like three categories of reasons. So, there's a ton of reasons why you don't need to focus on your portfolio. And the biggest one is you don't need it to win high ticket clients. If you want to win like a $40,000 client, like I remember I've got an interview with Jim on the website where his very first client was over 40 grand. He didn't even have his own website up yet, much less a portfolio in it. So, three huge categories of reasons why you don't need to let your portfolio stand in the way of you building your business. And the first category of reasons why you don't need to do that is the cost of building the portfolio. So a lot of times what will happen is, I get to talking to somebody and they're like, hey, here's what I need to do. I'm going to build my portfolio. And I'm going to say, okay, well, how are you going to do that? And they're going to, because like the whole idea is they need to build the portfolio so they can then show their clients what they can do so that they can then win clients. But if you're not winning clients, how are you supposed to build the portfolio? So it's kind of this weird circular loop problem. And so I say, well, what are you going to do to build your portfolio? And of course, then it comes, well, friends, I'll build a couple of sites for free to get started or super low cost. And that's the problem. The cost of building your portfolio is just too high. It's too high. You can't do it. It's unsustainable. Like doing free work and taking on projects from other, from friends or whatever, it's just the cost is too high. You can't build a portfolio off of just doing free work and expect that you can actually stay in business doing it. It's just the cost is just too high. And on top of that, it doesn't represent your best work. Like if you have to do the work for free, you can't really invest the time it takes to really build out the tools and the design and the messaging and all of the things that really go into a fantastic project. You don't have the time to put into it because you're doing it for free. And so you got to kind of rush through it so you can have as many sites in your portfolio as you can or whatever. And so it just doesn't represent your best work to try to build your portfolio in order to then go out and win clients. And then on top of that, it messes up your identity, like who it is that people think that you are. So for example, you go out and, onboard a couple of quick projects, maybe even free for friends or whatever, just to build the portfolio. And then what will happen is your friends are going to be like, oh, Sarah, or, John, or whoever it is that just built their website for them. They're going to say, hey, if you need kind of a great, cheap website, then, call that guy. And then now you're getting all these leads for people who want cheap websites because you just built cheap websites. And so you're kind of branding yourself as someone who builds cheap websites. And that's going to be a big problem for you in the future when you make the shift of not selling cheap websites anymore, because the main draw that people are getting from you is, hey, I can get this great custom website and it's really inexpensive. And that's not what you want to be known for. You don't want to be known for the fact that you do great work for really low rates. You want to do great work for great rates. And so you're building up this wrong identity. And then the biggest problem is behind the cost of building your portfolio is it stops you from taking on the clients that you really need. So from actually building your business. So right off the top, the main reason you don't have to put much focus on building your portfolio is the cost. The cost is just too high. And if you do it the other way, like just take on clients, start winning clients, do great work, and the portfolio will build itself. So you focus on building the business and the portfolio will build itself. So, on one hand, you're sinking all of your time, energy, resources, effort, everything into building the portfolio for free, and the cost is just too high. But if you ignore it and just kind of let it come about, organically, then you can focus on your actual business and there is no cost. So I don't want to say that if you don't need to hide your work. Like if you've got a portfolio of projects and you've done great work, show it to people. That's fine. I'm not saying that it detracts from your value to say, hey, I've done great work before. What I am saying is you don't have to have a portfolio to win high ticket clients. And the cost of trying to put together a portfolio, if you feel like that's the first step, is too high. It's just too high. So, it's unsustainable. It doesn't represent your best work. It creates the wrong identity, and it stops you from actually doing real work. So there's category number one of why you don't need to focus on your portfolio. Category number two, though, is the audience. So, like, who are you attracting because of your portfolio? Like, what is the audience? Like, who's resonating with the fact that you have a portfolio? And so, like, what's your marketing like? So, who are you marketing to based on the portfolio? So, like, when I review people's websites, which I do all day long, every day, I look at I look at everything, and a lot of times it's a big list of skills. It's kind of a major point, and then they showcase their clients' websites. And if you've been in business for a while, then you probably have a bunch of websites. And so now you've got, I don't know, 15, 20, sites in their portfolio. And it's like, but it's all over the board. It's like there's doctors, there's dentists, there's landscaping people, there's fitness coaches, there's nonprofits and churches, and there's everything. Everything's in the portfolio. And so what are you really marketing? Like, if you're putting an emphasis on needing to have that before you can start winning clients, or even to win additional clients in the future, when someone goes into your portfolio, who are you attracting? Like, who does that resonate with? And the truth is, it doesn't resonate with anybody, because you're marketing to everybody. And when you do that, you're not really targeting anything. And so, you don't need to put an emphasis on establishing or building a huge portfolio, because it doesn't actually do anything for your marketing. It's just, hey, I build websites. And it looks like everybody knew that already. So that's not really helping you. And on top of that, it's like, what if I'm your client and I show up and I look at your website and I see a bunch of sites in your portfolio, and I think, well, okay, well, just because this person can build a nonprofit website that looks pretty cool, can she help me get clients for my fitness coaching business? It's like, I don't know. The only thing that you get out of it is, I look at your portfolio and I say, oh, okay, those sites look pretty cool, and that's about it. And so, in just a minute, we're gonna so log that thought into your mind. Oh, these sites, this work looks pretty cool. That tends to be the only real benefit of the portfolio. It doesn't make me think, oh, this person, since they can build a great church website, or they can build a great website for a lawyer, then of course they can build a great website for me, the fitness coach or whatever. That connection is not there. But some people think it might be, but it isn't. So the audience is not really resonating with your portfolio in terms of your marketing. And then the last thing about the portfolio is, a lot of times what will happen is, rather than using the portfolio as like a visual indicator of the fact that they can do cool work, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, here's this project, and I built this using PHP and MySQL and the LAMP stack, and like, here's all the technology that went into that project. And then this project over here, I built this custom React thing going on, and all this cool JavaScript stuff is happening over here. And you talk about like the technologies that went into the projects. And that's a little bit more valuable if your audience is able to understand what that is. So like, if you're marketing yourself as like a technology person, and you're trying to connect with like agencies, recruiting firms, just something where you're trying to your raw skill set is really what you're promoting, your raw technical skill set. Then what you can do is you can say, hey, here's a project where I use this certain set of technologies, and look, it was success, right? Like I was able to do it. And that's helpful. And that's one of the reasons why people tend to put an emphasis on their portfolio, is because they're thinking of it kind of like a resume. Like, hey, here's my skills, and it means that I can actually use these tools and skills well enough to create this really cool website. And what somebody's looking at it for, they're not really looking at the website to say, oh, I want a website like that. They're looking at you and saying, this person has skills, and they're validating the fact that they can use the skills because they have this website. Therefore, their skills are probably pretty solid, pretty strong. And therefore, I can hire this person because they've got good skills. And that's cool, but that's not the audience. That's not the audience that you're trying to attract if you're doing what we're talking about in this group, which is reaching directly out to businesses and showing them how you can serve them, how you can help them establish better outcomes for their businesses because they're working with you. we're not really focused on how to get a job at an agency or how to get hired from at a company or how to write a better resume or something like that. We're focused here in this group on how can you reach out to business owners, like actual business owners in your community that you have access to, and you can say, hey, let me help you get more calls booked. Let me help you get more people sitting in your restaurant. Let me help you build a 6-figure business as a photographer, something like that. That's what we're trying to do. You're reaching directly out to those types of business owners. And when you create a portfolio where you say, I use these skills to create these outcomes, you're attracting, again, you're marketing to the wrong audience. The business owners can't really resonate with that. So that's another reason why you don't really need to focus on your portfolio before you start winning clients. So, those are basically 3 big reasons behind that. So like, who are you marketing to? Probably everybody. You probably have a portfolio filled with, everybody. And so there's no niching down, if you will. And because of that, it's not really resonating with anyone. And then it's not really helping people make connections, based on whether that you can drive results for them, because it's like, just because you can build a great website for this business doesn't mean you can build a great one for me. And then a lot of times you tend to, you might be using your portfolio as a validation of your technical services rather than your outcomes, and your clients don't really care for that. So the whole big thing, the audience is just not right when it comes to emphasizing your portfolio to try to win clients. And that's why portfolios don't win clients. So that's category number 2, is the audience. And then category number 3, and this is the big one, is the outcome. And this is the biggest of the 3 reasons. Maybe I don't know, they're all really big reasons. The cost might be the biggest reason, really. I don't know. These are all huge reasons why you don't need to have your portfolio stand in your way of winning clients. And this one is the outcome. So the bottom line between what we're talking in the context of what we're talking about here in this group is, you're not just trying to offer better websites to people. You're trying to offer better outcomes. And by focusing on your portfolio and saying, hey, look at all of these websites, it's creating a mindset in your client that, hey, I'm going to hire this person and I'm going to get a better website. And you don't want that. You want them to think, hey, I'm going to hire this person and get a better business. Because if you do that, then you have the value. The value's on you, not the website. And it's a better outcome. So you can charge a lot more for a better business than you can for a better website. So that's the bottom line in terms of the outcome. So by focusing on your portfolio, you're shifting your client's mindset away from where you really want it to be, which is, the outcomes that they get from working with you, and into a situation where they're just kind of looking at, well, that's a pretty nice set of sites in this portfolio. But here's a question. Let me ask you this. How do the sites in your portfolio compare to the demo sites on Wix or on Squarespace, right? Like the templates there. Like, they don't really call them a portfolio on Wix or Squarespace. They call them templates. And that's fine. It's basically the same idea, because when somebody's looking at your portfolio, they're not going to get the exact site in the portfolio. They're going to use that as something, well, I'd like a site that looks sort of like that. And so your portfolio is kind of like the templates that you offer. So like, do you have as many sites in your portfolio as Squarespace has templates in theirs? Is it as broad? Can people drill down your site and be like, I need a restaurant website where I can sell stuff, whatever. It's like, do you have something? So if you were to kind of do apples to apples comparison of the stuff in your portfolio versus what's in Squarespace's, do you win? Like, is it good? That's a big question to ask, right? Because unless you can offer better outcomes, then you're going head to head on portfolio against portfolio. And this is why you don't want to do that. You can't win that battle. It's like every site on Squarespace is responsive and looks great, and there's a million of them in there, and you can drill down into categories and all that other stuff. And here's the big kicker. It only costs a couple bucks. So like, I was like, just right before this, I was like, how much is it exactly? Like, if somebody wants to buy a site on Squarespace, how much exactly does it cost? Because oftentimes we'll talk here and be like, oh, it's cheap, it's $5, it's free, whatever. So I just want to get the exact price. So I went on to Squarespace and I looked at a couple of different pricing options that they have there. And it's like between $150 and $500. So like, I think the cheapest package was $144 a year. I think they maybe have 5 different pricing tiers. Like the middle one was like, was $216 for the year. And then the Deluxe Jam Max one with all the cool stuff was $480 for the whole thing. So And that includes $100 towards Google Ads. So like if you buy, let's say you went all in, you bought a Squarespace site and you spent $480. Well, you get $100 back for Google Ads, and you've got all kinds of, you've got e-commerce, you've got donations, you've got point of sale stuff, you've got subscriptions. It's like all of that is baked into the mix for $480. So you need to figure something out here, because if the sites in your portfolio cost $5,000 and you're saying basically the same thing, hey, it's going to be responsive, it's going to load quickly, you can do e-commerce, you can do donations, you can do point of sale, you can do subscriptions, and maybe I'll even throw in an extra $100 towards your Google Ads experience, and it's $5,000 on your site and $480 on Squarespace. That's a huge problem. You've got to do something better than that. And the solution, of course, is you have to offer better outcomes than people could generate for themselves, even though they have some tools at their disposal on Squarespace. So then my curiosity was kind of piqued, and I said, well, what about Wix? How does it look on Wix? Like, what's that situation like? And again, of course, Wix has a variety of things. You can even get started for free. Wix has a free platform that you can use. But let's say you go all in there and you kind of get, their big package. That's $324 to get the whole thing going on with Wix. And you get a free domain name for a year. So that's thrown in. You also get $300 worth of ad vouchers. So the whole thing costs $300 and they're throwing it, or $324. And now you're getting $300 of ad vouchers into the mix. So you're really only coming out at this point with $24 towards the website. But on top of that, they also throw in a professional logo. I'm not really sure how professional it is. They call it a $50 value. So it obviously can't be too professional. But nevertheless, if you don't have anything, they'll throw in a logo. And then they even throw in some social media logo files so that you've got, images to kind of put on your Facebook page and whatever. So there you go. So $324 on Wix gets you a free domain name, $300 of ad vouchers, a professional logo, and social media files, hosting and maintenance and everything else, backups and security, all of the stuff for $324. And they have more basically templates in their portfolio that you can shake a stick at compared to yours. So like, how can you go head to head if you're trying to compete against that? And then on top of that, their marketing budget is way higher than yours. That's what we were talking about last week. Is like, how can you compete against Squarespace for small businesses? Like if you think you're in business to sell websites to small local businesses in your area, that's who Squarespace thinks they're in business trying to sell websites to. And they're running Super Bowl ads. What are you doing? How are you going to compete against that? You just can't. And so the solution is you have to offer a better outcome than what people can get on Squarespace on their own. And so that's what the whole point, like the whole reason I put DoubleStack together, the whole reason I come here every Tuesday and do these 2 o'clock workshops with you guys, is to try to adjust all of our mindsets into thinking we're not going head to head against Squarespace. Because if you do, you lose. You can't win that game. I mean, it's $324 on Wix, it's $480 on Squarespace, and they have all of the things, right? And so what I'm telling you is that if you're trying to say that your work is $5,000 or $3,000 even, right? It doesn't even have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be 5 or 10. Like I tend to think that your work should start probably at $3,000 and go up to maybe $10,000 for the initial build out phase of a client project. And then you move into the marketing phase where you do some kind of month-to-month retainer for your business development, consulting, and marketing. But that initial phase, like if you're going to be charging $5,000 versus $480 for the deluxe jam thing on Squarespace, you can't do that based on the raw technology that's going into the mix. So what you have to do instead is you have to think about the outcomes. And that's where we begin to figure out, well, how do we actually position you so that you are able to communicate what those outcomes are to your clients? And it comes down to those 3 things that we were kind of tapping into last week too. The first thing is, what are the tools and skills that you really want to use to be able to drive those outcomes? Because it's not going to just be website hosting and maintenance. It's got to be other things too. You've got to have some skills with regard to email marketing. You're going to have some copywriting skills. You're going to have to be able to do at least some basic sales funnels and landing pages and help people start building their lists and things like that. That's a big component to it. So you have to, so one of the things that we've spent a lot of time on is how do we make sure that you're comfortable doing that stuff? And then the second thing is the marketing. So you have to get out of going head to head against Squarespace and Wix, because it's not a competition anymore. It's fully automated. The reason they can charge $480 for a full-blown website with all that stuff is there's no human beings that have to do anything in order to make that happen, except for the business owner who's doing it on their own. So the platform itself is now automated, and you don't, if this is an example like AI putting people out of business, it's like you don't want to have to compete against machines, right? It's like there's no human beings building the sites, and you are a human being building the site. And so you can't go head to head on that. So the second thing that we really focus on in DoubleStack is how can we market your business so that you're different. You're different from Squarespace and Wix, but you're also different from everybody out there who's saying, I do web design, I do graphic design, I do branding, I do whatever. Like, you don't want to go out there and broadcast out your skill set in terms of these raw skills, because you're going to just get lost in the noise with everybody else. You can't market for that. You can't run Google ads for that. If you try to run Facebook ads for that, again, you're competing against Squarespace and Wix for the same audience. They're running Super Bowl ads. And even if you do get a lead by marketing those same kind of raw skills, the mindset of those leads that are coming in are going to be thinking that you're at least roughly in line with what they could get on their own for about $500. And again, if you look at what's going on Upwork or Fiverr, where actual human beings are doing work, it's still like $500. Like, if you go over there with a budget of $500 and you say, hey, can somebody hook me up with a website? You can get a site. You can get a site on Squarespace. Somebody will build you a Squarespace site. Somebody will build you a WordPress site for very inexpensive rates. And so, and it's because everyone is saying the same words. So the second thing that we do when we work together in DoubleStack is we get your marketing dialed in. So you don't have to go out in there and say the same thing as everybody all the time. And instead you focus on the outcomes that you generate for people. So that's thing number two. Thing number one was the skill set, making sure you feel great about the skills you use to drive results. Thing number two, making sure you feel great about your marketing so that you know what to say, who to say it to, why working with you is different from working with, people on Fiverr and Upwork, or just building your own site. So that's a big thing. And then the third thing is the business structure. And this is something that we put a lot of emphasis on last week when we were talking about, like, what is your earning potential? So if you didn't catch last week's workshop, check it out. You can find it at doublestack.net. There's a big thing in the header called weekly workshops. You can get the replays there. They're also here in this Facebook group. They're on YouTube. They're on the podcast, wherever you listen to all this stuff. Check out last week's workshop, because we talked about your earning potential. And one of the big concepts that we uncovered was you want to make sure that the ratio of your non-billable time to your billable time is balanced in a way that's going to allow you to hit the revenue goals that you have. Most of the time, people have way more weight on the non-billable hours than they do on billable hours. And of course, when that happens, you can't win. Like, you need to have more on the billable hour side. And so the third thing that we really focus on with regard to DoubleStack is the business structure. And it's not just, the rates in terms of hours and billable hours and non-billable hours, but it's also what is it like to interact with you? For example, when you sit down with a client at a meeting, are you just discovering what to do off the top of your head on the fly? Are you attracting clients because they're looking for a website, or are you attracting clients because they're looking for the outcome of what you can deliver, like a better business outcome? And then, of course, you want to get into a situation where you have like a portfolio of 8 to 10 clients, something like that you work with on an ongoing basis. And you have what if you made $1,000 a month from 10 clients? What if you did that? Just kind of simple math. You'd be making $120,000 a year and $10,000 a month. That's the kind of business structure that you want. Now, obviously, that's super simplistic. We do a little bit more advanced stuff in DoubleStack than just that simple concept, but that's the idea. Get yourself a portfolio of clients that you work with on an ongoing basis, and that's going to give you a business structure. That means the vast majority of your time is billable time, not non-billable time, which is what you end up with if you have a business structure where you are doing one and done projects all the time. So those are the three big things. The raw skills to drive results so you can generate better outcomes, which is what we were just talking about, which differentiates you from all these other low budget alternatives. the marketing, so you know what to say and how to attract people, and so you don't sound exactly like everybody else, and then the business structure that actually gives you a platform that you can succeed with, rather than one that just burns you out trying to, you're just set up to fail if you're not building recurring revenue and these high ticket clients. And because the price is falling out of websites. So if your business is one where you're selling websites, then you're just going to see the price continue to drain out of it because of everything we just talked about. I mean, you can get cheap sites everywhere. So you need not to be in the situation where you're trying to sell cheap sites to people. You want to be in a situation where you sell these better outcomes. So all that looping back around to the whole portfolio thing, it's like, don't let your portfolio stand in your way. You don't have to have a portfolio in order to land high ticket clients. You really barely even need a website to land high ticket clients. Now, if you have those things, use them to your advantage to help kind of with the process, but don't let those things stand in your way. And instead, let's get on the phone and talk about how we can actually start winning you clients, even if you don't have a portfolio yet. Like say you've been working at an agency or you work for somebody else or whatever, and you can't put those projects on your portfolio anyway because they came from somebody else or somebody else's clients. Don't let that stand in your way. Instead, go over to doublestack.net/call and let's get on the phone and talk about how we can actually get this better outcome situation going for you, so that you don't have to endure the cost of trying to crank out your own portfolio. You're marketing to the right audience and you're delivering better outcomes. So head over to doublestack.net/call. We'll get on the phone for like 45 minutes for free, and we'll talk about how to do all of these things in the context of your business. So there we go. doublestack.net/call. Look forward to talking to you. High five for you. Boop. Talk to you soon.